Hey everyone, I'm Parker, co-founder of DecoExchange. Ever been told that crafting is just a hobby? Well, we've turned our passion for crafting into a thriving 8-figure business, surrounded ourselves with an incredible community, and learned countless valuable lessons along the way. From navigating business challenges to celebrating wins, we've seen firsthand that makers mean business. Join me as we dive deep into these stories, strategies, and secrets behind making your craft a successful enterprise. Because here at Makers Mean Business, we're all about proving that makers aren't just making, they're building dreams and running businesses. What is up, everyone? It is Parker here with the Makers Mean Business podcast. We are back for episode 4 of our shipping series. Last episode, I talked a little bit about saving on shipping costs and the things that kind of go into that, and just a bunch of general thoughts. I thought it was a really good episode. If I do say so myself, it's definitely worth listening to if you guys haven't, if you're just starting to listen now, or if, maybe you missed that episode. Today, we're going to talk about issues that you might come across with shipping and kind of have some just general conversations around that. A lot of this stuff, y'all, you've probably dealt with before, or at least heard of before, or you've probably experienced before as a customer. But I just wanted to share some general insight on what we do as a business and what we've seen as a business and how we handle that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the common problems that I've seen, how to be a little more proactive about some of those problems, and just dealing with customers and talking to them about the same problems. All that being said, y'all, let's hop into it. So the most common stuff you'll probably see is delays, lost packages, damaged packages, or just straight up the customer's like, it says delivered, but I never got it. So let's just go one by one through all of these and just talk a little bit about them. I think of all of those, delays is probably my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite, just because if I consider it delayed, or if it's considered delayed, it's usually still moving through the system. And what I mean by that is if you check the shipping label or the tracking number, or the little, if you go to FedEx and type in the tracking number to track it, it still has movement on it. And that is good, because that means it's not great, right, if it's delayed, but it's good because they still are scanning it and it's not lost somewhere in some random warehouse in the back of someone's truck on the road somewhere. It's a whole mess, right? So delays is probably my favorite of that. Lost packages, it's the same as a delay, except it's not moving and no one really knows where it is. It hasn't moved in days. Not my favorite. Damages, probably my second to least favorite is damages. You guys have probably heard of it before. It's not something that's new or unheard of. The driver body slammed the box, or it got smashed by a bunch of other boxes, or gosh knows what else, right? And then the last one, it's definitely my least favorite. It's, hey, my box shows delivered, but it's not there. It's not home. I was home all day. I have a camera, not there. I hate that one. It's not fun. I don't think it's fun for anyone. Depending on how the customer is, where you're selling, I've had different experiences with customers on how to deal with that. But we'll talk a little bit about communications and kind of expectations at the end. But that's the most popular problems. So let's talk about what we can do to mitigate or reduce or completely eliminate some of those problems. As far as delays and lost packages go, there's not so much that you can do to stop it from happening. But what you can do is the biggest, this is going to sound really obscure, but honestly, it's made a bigger difference, like a noticeable difference in our business, is making sure that the labels are stuck completely on the box. Because what happens is the boxes, they get wrapped in plastic, they get shoved next to other boxes. And if you've ever seen, labels are essentially a sticker, right? If you're using like a label printer, and if one corner like flips in on itself or flips over on itself, where the sticky side could be either facing out, or if the sticky side flips in on itself, it basically gives a spot where it can get caught on stuff, really. I know, y'all, I hope this doesn't sound completely ridiculous, but I'm telling you, like when we do subscription boxes or even when we ship our normal stuff, we've had boxes come back, lots of boxes that come back that are the label's like half ripped off, or the label is just complete. Like you could see that there was something stuck to it. You guys ever stick either a label or a sticker on something, or you try to pull a barcode off of something and it rips some of the cardboard or whatever it is stuck on off of it? We've had boxes come back like that, completely missing the label completely. And going through our process and talking to the team at the warehouse and saying, hey, make sure that you're really sticking the label on there. Make sure that it's not getting flipped on itself. Make sure that it's completely stuck, like without ripples and stuff like that. It's drastically reduced the problems that we've had. Also making sure that we have like good labels that actually stick. They all are not made the same. Some of them are way stickier than other ones. Some of us, as soon as you stick it, you ain't getting that thing off of there. But some of them, it's easier to pull off. So making sure that you have those quality labels too. But the second, or I guess it's technically the third kind of random thing that I wanted to bring up, when you're printing labels, especially on specialty like heat thermal label printers, you can increase the density of the black on the label. And that makes a big difference too, because if it's lighter, if it's faded, the scan doesn't scan. It can misscan, it cannot scan at all. And I'm completely speculating here. I have no idea if this actually happens or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if people working at any of these carriers, they're trying to scan stuff and it doesn't scan, it just gets put to the side and it's, oh, I'll just deal with this later once I'm done scanning the rest of this stuff. And I think that opens the door for having issues with actually scanning stuff. So that's something I really think makes a difference too. We turned ours up a good bit from the default, and it makes just a really clear, crisp lines on the barcodes. The label address names are all very clear. There's a lot more clarity on the actual print. So if you're using a thermal label printer or just an inkjet printer, make sure that the print quality is good on whatever you're printing it on, and make sure that it's secured really well to the box. I think that helps delays and that helps lost packages. I've toured a couple facilities and a lot of the process is automated. And going back to where I was saying, if someone's trying to scan something and it doesn't scan, they'll just put it to the side. I don't know this for a fact, but if it's part of an automated process and the automated process kind of fails, it slows things down, it gets pushed to the side, it gets delayed. Right. So doing those two simple things or three simple things, making sure that's stuck, using a good label that adheres to the box really well, and making sure that the label print quality is good will reduce the amount of problems that they have inside of the automation for processing packages. Moving on to damages. This is something you can be a little more proactive about, and you're going to know your product better than I do. But the first thing is making sure that it fits in a box that's adequately sized. Putting it in a box that's too small is going to smash up everything. Putting it in a box that's too big is going to make it easier to crush the box. If you have something that's grossly oversized, if it gets a dent in the size of the box, all of a sudden the whole structure of the box is compromised. It's a whole situation. So you want to make sure that you're using a decent sized box that's not too big, not too small. It's just right. Like was the porridge? It's like one was too hot, one was too cold, one was just right. So make sure that you use a box that is just right, and that'll go a long way. There are options for, I'll just call it void fill. The people in the biz call it void fill. It's like a thicker butcher paper just to kind of stuff the box without damaging anything inside of it. The whole point is to support the outside of the box from the inside. If you're trying to, let's just pretend like you're trying to step on a cardboard box, you're gonna smash it. It doesn't matter if you're super thin, overweight, it doesn't matter. You're gonna smash the box. Now, if you put a bunch of books in the box and then step on the box, it's going to support you better and the box won't collapse on itself. Now, we're not going to stuff books in the box, but we're going to use packing paper or packing peanuts or a few other options I was going to bring up to support the box from the inside so that outside forces don't crush it as easily, because boxes get stacked, right? They get thrown around, they get put in the side of the truck inside of the truck and stacked and shifted around and all the things. And like I was alluding to earlier, once you have that first kind of dent in the box, the whole box is just going to crumble. It's never going to be as, like, the support is never going to be the same. It's once you crack that egg, or it's just, you're done. The structure's gone. So you really want to take time and try to support the box from the inside as best you can. And again, that's why you want to use the just right box size, because that's less structure that you have to support, and there's less empty space in the box that you have to support. So a few options for that, y'all. We use that butcher paper. It's called packing paper, I think, technically. We've used packing peanuts before. We've used bubble wrap before. We've used air pockets before. There's a bunch of different options, and really it depends on what you are shipping and what you're trying to protect. If it's a whole bunch of, let's just say I'm shipping a whole bunch of mesh or ribbon, I'm not necessarily worried about the stuff getting damaged, right? If the little flange on the ribbon gets bent a little bit, I'm not particularly concerned about it. Some of our customers freak out about it, but it's not the end of the world, right? Now, if I'm shipping let's say it's a styrofoam pick or like a styrofoam ornament, I take a little bit more time, or the team takes a little bit more time to actually wrap that to make sure that the box doesn't crush on it, because if that gets damaged, it's like irreparable damage, right? Like you crush the ornament, it's done. So that kind of leads to unhappy customers, wasted revenue, more room for negative reviews, all of that kind of stuff. Take the extra time to protect the stuff that's worth protecting. And most of you selling finished handmade products, it is worth protecting. Bubble wrap is a great option. Packing paper is a good option. Packing peanuts is a great option. So just know that those are all there. So y'all, moving on to just communicating with customers through these issues. It's not fun, y'all. Depending on the customer, they can be super understanding, or they can just be completely irate. And the reality is, at least for me, it's not fun either way. I hate telling people, oh, your package is lost, or I hate telling people, they'll reach out to me and say, oh, I didn't get the package. And I'm like, oh, it shows delivered. So it's tough. And you do have to take off your creative hat, your personal feelings hat, and put on your customer service hat and deal with that adequately, appropriately. There are things that you can do for lost packages, for damaged packages. You can reach out to the carrier as the shipper. The customer can reach out to the carrier as the shippee. And there's certain processes that you can start there, but it's definitely important to communicate that with the customer, let them know what's going on. If they may not even know why something is delayed, or they might not understand, they may think that it's your fault. A lot of customers think that you specifically will control the delivery of the package, when in reality, once it gets picked up by the carrier or dropped off at the carrier, it's off into this black box where things happen, and hopefully it ends up where it's supposed to. But sometimes it doesn't. So being able to be transparent with them, being able to let them know what's going on, is always a best practice for sure. But another thing that you can do, especially as a small business, that doesn't really cost you anything but a little bit of time, is to keep a handle on actually tracking the items for them. Whenever you ship a finished product, or any product at all, you get the label printed, you have the tracking number, and then most of the time, depending on the type of shipping that you use, you already know the ETA, or the estimated delivery date, as long as it gets picked up on the date that you told it you were going to pick it up at. My suggestion is to be proactive there and actually track it along with the customer. Again, especially if you're a smaller business, especially if you're not shipping tons and tons of boxes, it's like that personal touch where you can let the customer know, hey, I just shipped it. It says an ETA of here. If something changes, we can let you know, or you can check the tracking number here and it should update. That typically goes a long way. As you continue to grow, or as you continue to ship more and more, there are systems that kind of automate a lot of that for you, where it will immediately let the customer know if something is going to get delayed. I'm sure as a consumer, if you guys have ever shopped on Amazon or maybe even DecoExchange, if something gets delayed, you can get an update via email. It says, hey, your package is running late. Here's your new estimated delivery date. Hopefully it has one. Sometimes it's just missing. But that's some things to keep in mind. As far as stuff not getting delivered to the customer, we have had a ton of experience where the carrier will just mark stuff as delivered. I don't know if it's so they can meet their metrics. I don't know if it's because they did it on accident. But 9 times out of 10, when people say, hey, my thing is said delivered and it was not delivered, I don't have it, it usually shows up in a day or two, most of the time. Luckily for us, a lot of the carriers are now implementing a photo on delivery. So it will have a photo and say, it'll show like where the package was left. Sometimes the carriers leave it like behind a bush or not in plain sight. But sometimes they'll actually deliver it to the wrong address. And that photo will let the customer know, oh, this is my neighbor's house. This is a different apartment number. This is whatever. And it'll give them a chance to go and recover the box from that other person. Y'all, that is my thoughts on communicating with the customers, the different problems that we've had with shipping, and how we took some steps to reduce those problems. I feel like I talked a lot. I feel like there was a lot of great information in this episode, though, y'all, especially as a business that ships. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there's a lot of things that we can do to help the process along. And I think really just communicating with the customer goes a long way, and just being transparent with them. Y'all, if y'all enjoyed this episode, there's going to be more. There's more available every week. We drop a new episode every Thursday. You can subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the things. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave us a review. That really goes a long way. Y'all leaving us a review, letting us know, I love Parker so much, or whatever it is. Feel free to leave us a review. And I'll see you guys next time on the Makers Mean Business podcast. Bye, y'all.